morning and welcome to the Unitarian Universalist congregation at Shelter Rock on this lovely day. I applaud all of you for being here instead of being at the beach or in the woods or on the back porch. It's so wonderful to see you here, to have the sunshine and your sunshiny faces. I always think that I'm especially blessed to be able to look at you and see all of your faces and your reactions, to see what you come into the room with, and to see you perhaps change a little bit while you sit here and leave refreshed, renewed, with something new to think about, something new to grapple with, something new to celebrate, and perhaps with some of your burden a little lifted. For that is why we are here together. I'm the Reverend Natalie Fenimore. I serve this congregation as minister, along with the Reverend Ned White, who is away today, and the Reverend Jennifer Brower, who is on sabbatical until February of 2018. So, I'd like to say that it's good to have you with us worshiping today, and I would especially like to welcome our special guests who are with us today from Afghanistan, Shahrazad Kufi and Sofida Barkmadi. Yes, I hope so. And they would like to say a word of welcome to you. Please come forward.
A very good morning to you all. My name is Shahrazad, and I've come all the way from Afghanistan to learn things and then to go back and serve my country. I have come through a program called the Initiative to Educate Afghan Women. And I'm recently, I got my admission in Montclair State University in New Jersey. And this is my mother's book. I don't know if some of you might have read it. It's called The Favored Daughter. Initially, it was called The Letters to My Daughters. It's a story of her life and how she struggled and fought. And now she's a member of parliament in Afghanistan, and she's serving women, and she's fighting for women's rights, and she's an activist also. And I recommend this book if you wanted to read it. It's called The Favored Daughter. Thank you.
As many of you may know, should I just speak to you? Come.
Hello and good morning to everyone. It's such a pleasure for me. It's such a pleasure for me to be here before you. And I'm a rising sophomore, third year. It's my third year in the United States. I've been here through the same program, the Initiative to Educate Afghan Women, and I'm a public administration student. After I graduate, I wish to build a study and work school in Afghanistan for street children to be able to help them get education and to differ their lives from being a criminal or a thief or somebody who has grown in poverty to be an educated person and be able to benefit society in a positive way. Thank you.
As many of you know, the work of Shelter Rock, the work of Unitarian Universalism, is to support those in need around the world, which we do so well with our programs through VEACH and large grants, through our Social Justice Committee and our outreach work. We also have been privileged to host the International Association of Unitarian Universalists, and we hope that many of you will continue to be part of the worldwide Unitarian Universalist movement. So, if you are new with us today, we hope that you have a good experience, and to help facilitate that, we offer you a complimentary lunch immediately following the service. Gold lunch cards are available at the welcome area out in the hallway. And if you're interested in more information about the congregation, please complete the blue newcomers card that's found in the back of your pew in the rack, or go to the welcome area and place the card when you get it in the collection plate, or take it out to the welcome area so that we'll have information about how to contact you and tell you more about our programs. Members of the membership committee wear stars on their name tags, and you can ask them questions about the congregation. Although this may be a surprise to our members, all of them are also welcomers, and feel free to ask them questions about the congregation as well. They'd be happy to help you. And while you're at lunch in the social hall, feel free to sit anywhere you'd like. However, there is a special table closest to the luncheon area that's designated for newcomers and new members if you'd like to have a talk with people about being new here or meet the other new members who are here. So, I invite you to take some time after the service to read the announcements and information that's in your program and your order of service. There are many pages of them, because we have many activities during the coming weeks. I'd like to draw your attention to some particular programs that are going to happen relatively soon and might interest you. So today, we have Share Your Story, the Committee on Ministry conversation. It'll be in room 4, starting at 1 o'clock. Room 4 is down the hall this way in the religious education wing. The Committee on Ministry and the ministry team invite you to this second conversation for members and friends of the congregation to share your stories and to be part of thinking about how we'd like to move our community forward, and just to begin a conversation about why you're here, what you like here, what you'd like to see us do in the future, how we can build a stronger and more vital community as we go forward. I'll be leading that conversation today with Amit Soor, who is the chair of the Committee on Ministry. Also today, the Courage to Defy Hate Task Force will be meeting at 12:15 in the Bride's Room, again in that direction. There's a congregational art show at 1 o'clock, right out here in the art gallery. And there'll be a reception there and a chance for you to learn a little bit more about the members. I found it quite surprising. There are people who are artists that I didn't know are artists, and it was great to see them and see a different part of people's lives. Also today, there is Together to End Solitary Confinement. No, that's going to be on Wednesday. Together to End Solitary Confinement will be at 6:15 in the art gallery and here in the worship room. So I hope that you will join these wonderful parts of our congregation and get to know each other better and get to experience us in our many different facets. So now, as is our custom, I invite you to greet your neighbor. Nathaniel. I invite Steve Marston, the chair of the Sabbatical Committee for Reverend Brower, to come forward to light our chalice this morning. And I call us to worship with these words of the Reverend Nancy MacDonald Ladd. More love, a call to worship. We gather in community every Sunday in a state of conflict for our very souls, a state more expansively hopeful and restrictedly confined. We are hopeful that we might rise to meet a new day for those who seek and who serve the Spirit, hopeful that each and every one of us might encounter the sacred within, among, beyond every human soul, and hopeful that such an encounter might work through us to topple the idolatries of our age. And yet, we also gather as people who are not yet free, a people confined, unfree, contained. We are confined, unfree, contained, because in this culture, a division built upon the pain of the people at the margins, even the decent people hold our love too tightly, putting it in boxes, prefacing it with qualifications. I will love you if, I will see you if, I will bear the truth of my soul alongside you if and only if. You agree with me, you look like me, you stand like me, you think like me, you act like me, you sing like me, you wear your gender on your sleeve and produce it upon demand. I will love you and will meet you in the sanctuary of our hearts if and only if. If you give me evidence of your good liberal virtues, if and only if. You will never fail to speak the language of the movement and never weep upon the street corner out of grief for your sheer inadequacy and the vastness of the struggle that you cannot even name. We are imprisoned by these ifs and these only ifs. We are confined by the smallness of our loving, even as our souls remind us that we can only get free if we all get free together. And so today, as we intersect in honest work, let our hopefulness mingle with our conviction. Let our willingness to love beyond our expectations or experience break down our long-held barriers. Let our willingness to be honest about the hardest questions open us to new truths. May there truly be more love, with no labels, with no binary, with no preference, with no qualifications, with no arithmetic and no limit. May there be more love to liberate us all, and may we keep on today and every day until we find it and share it, inch by precious inch, with one another and the world. So may it be. Please stand and body your spirit for our opening hymn, number 18, What Wondrous Love. Let's remain standing for the words of affirmation, the song of affirmation that are printed in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest of truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve human need. This we do affirm and covenant with each other. Please be seated.
Now I've heard there was a secret chord that David played and it pleased the Lord. But you don't really care for music, do ya? Well, it goes like this: the fourth, the fifth, the minor fall, and the major lift, the baffled king composing hallelujah, hallelujah, hallelujah. Your faith was strong, but you needed proof. You saw her bathing on the roof, her beauty and the moonlight overthrew ya. She tied you to her kitchen chair, she broke your throne and she cut your hair, and from your lips she drew the hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. You say I took the name in vain. I don't even know the name. But if I did, well really, what's it to ya? There's a blaze of light in every word. It doesn't matter which you've heard, the holy or the broken. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. I did my best, it wasn't much. I couldn't feel, so I tried to touch. I've told the truth, I didn't come to fool ya. And even though it all went wrong, I'll stand before the Lord of song with nothing on my tongue but hallelujah, 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 hallelujah.
so much, Blake. So, I did my annual backpack shopping. I'm one of those people who love that Staples commercial. It's the most wonderful time of the year where the parents are going through the store, putting the stuff in the basket, and the kids are behind like, right. I love that commercial. I would sing that song through the house. My children did not appreciate it, but I love that commercial. Because, you see, for me, although for some people the back to school might represent the end of summer, which it does, and that's a sad thing, but it's a glorious thing to be able to go to school, to be with your friends, to be in an environment of learning, of possibilities. I think we sometimes forget all the people in the world, especially girls, who are denied the opportunity to go to school, who are never in an environment where people are looking at them and seeing their potential, who are never giving them pictures, visions of what might be in their lives, never saying to them, think about all the things you can do and all the things you can be. So I like to go and buy a backpack and put stuff in it, even though I'm long past the time when I'm doing it for my own children. I like to imagine the faces of the child who will get this backpack. Think about them with this backpack on, skipping off to school, and for the first time, thinking about all that they might be. Perhaps a new thing they never thought about before. Having an opportunity they never had before. So, we're going to give you an opportunity. Those of you who have yet not bought your backpacks for our school supply collections, today's donation in the collection plate, not designated for your pledges of financial support to this congregation, will benefit our annual school supply drive, and we will purchase any supplies that are still needed for the children, especially for the children of refugee families which this congregation is assisting. So, will the ushers please come forward, and will you please give generously? This reading changed my heart, the words of the Reverend Gretchen Haley. My first year in seminary, I interned as a chaplain at the Denver Women's Prison, where on Friday nights we'd gather for worship, which I quickly learned meant gathering around a CD player blasting what some call Jesus is my boyfriend music. The music would fill the room. The women would sing along with all their hearts, raising their arms filled with passion, swaying together, singing, Jesus, Jesus. As for me, well, I stood in the back, my arms firmly crossed, hoping to demonstrate to all who might look my way that this was not my thing. More than just feeling personally uncomfortable, I felt embarrassed for the women and for all these cheesy, superficial theology that they somehow embraced. And from this distance and defended place, I watched. So often, we resist with our rational brains the experiences our hearts most crave. We talk ourselves out of the love that stands so close we could almost eat it up if we would just stop, let go. Love. To receive love like that would mean an ongoing willingness to be vulnerable, an ongoing journey of transformation, breaking open and changing, being born and reborn again. My stance in the back of the worship space was like my own little force field that had me thinking much about systems of oppression, economic injustice, generational poverty, etc., and therefore protecting me from any deeper engagement with the life in the room. But then, between each worship service, the women would come and talk with me, and I started to get to know them, arms unfolded. I heard their stories of greater loss than I could even fathom, more struggle than you'd think a single person could survive. Then Friday night would come again, and they'd sing, and they'd cry and laugh together and release from their bodies just a few of the stories I knew lived there. One Friday night, I was standing there and this song was playing. Change my heart, O God, make it ever true. Change my heart, O God, make it be like you. Suddenly, it just hit me. It hit me. Who should really be embarrassed in this room? And in case it's not clear, it wasn't the women singing and swaying. In that moment, it hit me. The words, they didn't matter. The theology, Jesus is my boyfriend and Father God centered as it was, didn't matter. because the room was filled with life. And there was just one person in the room who had failed to experience that life, embodied there in the fellowship of women singing about the possibility of healing and goodness and forgiveness and transformation. And so I started singing, "Change my heart, oh God." I stepped in closer and I started singing louder, "Make it ever true." Okay, yes, I was still totally uncomfortable, but I was leaning into my discomfort, learning from it, letting it just be. Actually, it wasn't just uncomfortable, it was terrifying. Terrifying to let down my defenses like that, to invite these words into my mouth without clarifying what I did or did not actually believe. To sing with a full voice about Jesus and how I believe in him and his love for me and how it saves me. It was terrifying to give into that experience, knowing I too had experienced pain and shame beyond what I was willing and able to name. It was terrifying to just be present in the midst of all that discomfort, in the midst of all that love. Terrifying and transforming. After that night, I could receive more people more fully, be with more people more fully, love the world more fully, and receive love more fully. Uncross your arms. Lean all the way in. Love is everywhere. In the spirit of the reading, I now invite you to come forward to light a candle of joy or sorrow, memory or hope. Let us sit for a moment in silence, aware of the light of our candles of joy and sorrow, memory and hope, and all that it represents. light a candle for Ed Simmons, longtime member and leader of this congregation who died at the age of 96 last week. I light a candle for the family of Karen Belfiore, whose mother died. Karen and her family are members of this congregation. I light a candle for our member, Dottie Prunhuber, who is ill and requests cards and letters from her friends. I light a candle for those injured and killed in the terror attack in Barcelona, Spain. I light a candle for Heather Heyer, who was killed in a terror attack in Charlottesville, Virginia. I offer these words from the Reverend Kalani Casella, a Unitarian Universalist minister. Spirit of life, help us. We are a nation in mourning, a nation full of rage, a nation filled with pain and grief, a nation confused and on the brink of being anesthetized to the toxicity of race hatred. Help us. Help us to find our way through the turmoil that turns people against each other instead of turning them toward each other in love. Help us to see what little good ever comes out of viewing each other as the other. Only when we find our common humanity can we coexist peacefully and with loving kindness. As exasperated as we may have become, we go on. The future beckons us to come to it bearing a faith and resolve that passes all understanding. Like the birds of the air that can't help but sing their morning songs, we too have a song. We sing of love and forgiveness, grace, mercy, compassion, friendship, care, trust, and the ability to transcend our circumstances. We ask this prayer in the name of all persons present and absent, remembered and forgotten, known and unknown. Amen. Ashe. So may it be.
That you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly high over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
These are troubling times. I hear it all around me, the worry and the fear. Not a day goes by without someone telling me that these are the worst of times. There is fear and sadness and heartbreak, real and justified. Still, we have in fact been here before. We have protested, we have marched, we have demanded legislation, we have been here before. We have seen the cowardly, hooded, hateful Klansmen. We have heard the Nazis spewing anti-Semitic garbage. This is not new. This is not unknown. We must find a way to stand in today's storm. The storm that flared up in Charlottesville, Virginia last week. In the words of former UUA President Bill Singford, we need to wake up and rise. And I believe we should be angry. We can and must be unapologetically angry. In fact, some of us have been angry for a long while. Anger is not rage. Anger is not equal to violence. Resistance does not equal retaliation. Anger can be a righteous thing, a tool. It can bring focus to our goals. We can acknowledge our anger, see it clearly, and work to shift it, not ignore it. Righteous anger can and must fuel resistance, persistence, resolve, solidarity, and purpose. It can be something to push us forward, to feed our courage, to direct us. Because a love of free speech does not mean supporting hate speech. Those who resist hate are not equal to those who promote hate. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King said, "It is still one of the tragedies of human history that the children of darkness are frequently more determined and zealous than the children of light." And just as Rabbi Abraham Joshua Herschel walked with his friend Dr. King, our Unitarian Universalist President Susan Frederick Gray marched last week in Charlottesville, Virginia with rabbis and imams, ministers and priests, remembering our faithful interconnectedness, the ways in which we are all called to justice. Reverend Frederick Gray has written this about her experience in Charlottesville. Today was a tragic day, she said. We came to Charlottesville to bear peaceful witness, but were met with hate and racist violence. My heart has been broken, and I am deeply troubled by what is happening in this community and across this country. Torches held above banners of hate are a familiar image from American history, but she says she had never witnessed it in person until last night at the University of Virginia campus. The racist parade marched right past St. Paul's Memorial Church, where an incredibly powerful standing room only worship service with people of all faiths and all colors came together in song, spirit, and blessing. The Reverend Tracy Blackman told the story of David and Goliath, which is what it felt like on the streets of Charlottesville. This morning, the faith leaders that were called here by Congregate Seville went to Emancipation Park to block the entrance and prevent the Unite the Right rally from taking place. The message was clear: to stand with the community, to say that hate has no place here. The white nationalist protesters we faced chanted Nazi slogans like, "You will not replace us," and "blood and soil," in between anti-Semitic, sexist, and homophobic slurs. They wore Nazi emblems and carried pictures of Hitler. They wore Make America Great Again hats and held pictures of the President of the United States. And they had automatic weapons because Virginia is a right-to-carry state. Paramilitary uniforms, shields, and clubs. They had their guns and shields. We had our songs, our faith, our love, and we had each other. She goes on to say, "I'm so proud of Unitarian Universalist clergy and lay people for witnessing courageously on the side of love. Our faith calls us to resist violent extremism. We must liberate ourselves from the paradigms of dominance and hierarchy that are destroying lives, communities, and the planet. Fear and hatred corrupt our humanity and cut us off from the spirit, from the holy, from the goodness and beauty and the possibilities of creation. Only love can truly confront this corruption that puts our democracy, our liberty, our personal safety at risk. Love is more than any weapon, even if it doesn't feel that way. The faith and courage of our ancestors in the movement of resistance and liberation shows us this truth." So, some are indeed the children of darkness, and some are indeed the children of light. But not everyone stays where they begin. Hearts and minds can be changed. Our universalism means that we never permanently condemn anyone. We ask people to come into account for their actions, for their thoughts, for their beliefs, but we live in hope that everyone can be reconciled and turned toward love and justice. We should not, therefore, be hopeless, but we should not, therefore, be fools either. We must stand for justice. We must move toward the light and build a pathway for others to move with us. In the spirit of the Hebrew prophet Isaiah, the Spirit of God has sent us to bring good news to the oppressed, to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives and release to the prisoners, to comfort all who mourn, to give them garlands instead of ashes, the oil of gladness instead of mourning, the mantle of praise instead of a faint spirit. They shall build up the ancient ruins, rise up the former devastations, the devastations of many generations. And you, in doing these things, shall be named the ministers of God. You, Now, this may be our goal, but we have far to go in this ministry. We struggle still to welcome the poor, the immigrant, those incarcerated, the homeless, those of all faiths, races, and nationalities. We struggle to make this welcome a reality. Even in houses of worship, there is sometimes no welcome. I have walked into worship in Washington National Cathedral and had to sit beneath state flags that incorporate the Confederate battle flag within them. I've had to try to worship with these symbols of hate flying overhead. And in our schools, I have walked into a high school in Virginia, Washington and Lee High School, and you can guess who the Lee is, a public high school, and found myself face to face with an enormous oil painting of Robert E. Lee outside the principal's office. I imagined what it must have been like for a young person of color, for a child, to come into that office. What was it like for their parents, standing before symbols of intolerance and intimidation while trying to get a good education for their children? What was being said in that moment? What were they being told was their place? And what is being taught to white people by those pictures? What is being taught to white people in this moment? We talk a lot about identity politics, but this is the moment of white identity. Is it a truth that white identity is defined only in terms of supremacy and domination, hate and fear? I hope not. I believe not. To take down a statue of Robert E. Lee, a man who led a war of rebellion against the government of the United States, is not the same thing as denying the worth of the founding principles of the United States of America. As I may fall short as a minister, and some of you make sure I know that that happens from time to time, I fall short because I am human. The founders of this nation were also less than perfect human beings. But as I hope you will honor the ministry, no matter my failings within it, we honor the founders and all their complexity because of their role, because of their ideals, because of what they set in motion, even if the outcome is not their intent. What role do we honor when we set up statues for Confederate generals and racist politicians? And when folks call themselves neo-Nazis and parade down the streets proclaiming themselves the protectors of white culture? Can European culture learn to both celebrate its many accomplishments, the accomplishments in language, in art, in philosophy, and science? Wondrous things. Can these things be celebrated? And can we also acknowledge the stories of genocide, Holocaust, slavery, and oppression that share history with these great accomplishments? Let us celebrate a white identity without supremacy, as I would hope that people of color can be allowed an identity without oppression. This is the challenge. This is what we must make true. This is the vow of our community of faith. We welcome and we celebrate all. We affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every human person. But yes, Unitarian Universalism itself, our faith, our community, our congregation have all fallen short. we have and we will break our vow to one another. It is the nature of our humanity that we are imperfect. And though we have, in the words of Rumi, broken our vows 1,000 times, we say, come, yet again come. These words of Rumi speak to a welcome that is at the heart of Unitarian Universalism, at the heart of our faith, at the heart of our faith in this critical moment. We seek to be a home for all who desire our company. We seek to make a welcome for all those in search of our good news. Come, come, come little children, come teens, come young adults, come elders, come families in great diversity. Come to this loving home, this safe harbor. But don't come to find a place to escape the world. These beautiful Shelter Rock grounds, this spacious facility, they may provide you a needed respite, a time and a place and a space for replenishing your depleted spiritual reserves, but this must be a community of engagement, a community of action, of creativity. We have to come together to create boldly, to create dangerously. Our creativity is dangerous because we open minds, we open our mouths, we learn, we act, we grow, we speak truth to power, we claim power for ourselves, which may have once been denied to us. And when we challenge in this way, when we say, oh, we don't care if that's the way it's always been done. When we challenge history, tradition, institutions that have existed to separate us, to segregate us, to value some, to devalue others, when we do this, what we're saying is dangerous. People will fight to keep what they have, to stay with what they know. As we saw in Charlottesville, as we see around the world, people will kill when challenged. Even when what they have now provides them with no real dignity, no honest place in the world, no life of integrity. Still, it's what people know, and they'll try to keep it. The beloved community which we seek to create, the beloved community that is a product of our creative, faithful imagination, is an unknown thing in this world. So many people don't even believe it can or will ever exist. They fear this unknown thing. They have lost hope of there ever being a better world than the one they're in now. They'll battle to stay with this world they believe they know, this world where they believe they are rulers. They did that in Charlottesville. So we must create the beloved community with an awareness of how difficult it is, that it is hard work, a long struggle. It is work, it is ministry, it is a calling that challenges us to bring our whole selves and engage deeply and for the long haul. Our faith, our tradition must call us into a community seeking justice, working for peace. Our task is to create spaces where we might know and value one another, places of welcome and listening, not safe spaces, but brave spaces. I'm here, like you, offering my life story as a gift to Unitarian Universalism, a gift to you, a gift to this community, and your story is a gift to me, to this community, to Unitarian Universalism. We must listen to all our stories. and try to find a path to truth and reconciliation, and be honest about how learning the stories and the truths that we did not know before or that we would not acknowledge can cause us pain or guilt or shame. To reconcile, we need to make peace with the past, not by ignoring it, but by looking at it clearly from all sides, and then to move into renewed relationship, into a new and stronger covenant, a covenant where domination is not the goal for anyone. We must gain and grow from our knowledge of each other and build new and stronger communities born of this new understanding, born of this new love. We have all experienced times of pain and grief and conflict that separated us one from another and separated us from our own best selves. We all need to be reconciled with something or someone. Here, in our faith, we can try to forgive when forgiveness is possible, to live as best we can with a grateful heart, to accept the gifts of grace that come unearned, and to enlarge our circle of care and compassion as an act of salvation for all humanity, an act of salvation for the earth itself. And so I ask, I pray, may our ears open to hear the voices of others. May our eyes be ready to see each other clearly. May our hearts be enlarged to hold each other's pain and joy. May our arms be intertwined in embrace as we journey. Don't give up. Don't stop listening to one another. May it be so. Amen. Please rise in body and spirit for our closing hymn, number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are. Let's sing it twice. Are from the Reverend Kathleen McTeague, We breathe the common wind of the earth, no matter where we live, who we love, what language we speak. We drink the common water of the earth, no matter the color of our skin, how long we live, the coverings we drape on our forms. We follow the common paths of the earth, no matter our beliefs, how far we move from home, the gold we carry, or its lack. May we live from these truths, our hearts open to the holiness all around us, our hands turned always toward the common good. So may it be.